What is up, everybody, and welcome to a brand new ShawnSetGO episode. Today, we're going to do things a little bit differently because my comments say I should. And in the first comment, it writes, "You need a script, dude. You're just rambling and jumping from thought to thought without finishing one or setting up a premise." I had to listen to this guy at 1.5 speed because brother speaks slow. So, I mean, I naturally speak slow. I do kind of force a slow speak because I tend to speak faster than the words can formulate here to what I say to avoid stuttering and kind of jumping more. So I tend to speak slower because I tend to just jump too much, and that's kind of the way that I speak. But I get it, you know. Sometimes I try to speed up my videos a little bit, or I try to jump to topics a little bit more clearly. I try to fit it within the 20 minutes. There's a few things that I do try, but one thing I don't do is I don't write scripts. I have done scripts in the past, and I can do scripts, but I end up more doing kind of free flow discussion and conversation topics. I like to talk about these things as if they're a discussion between me and you. So I kind of set up the premise as well as some of the comments, usually jumping from the articles and that type of thing. But I say these things not to be like, oh, they're wrong, I'm in the right, but it's something that I think that I'll improve upon as time goes on, and I'll kind of fall into my niche. And speaking of my niche, of being the little bit of discussion as well as Reddit conversations, first thing that came up today in my series of news was this. It says, "As we say goodbye to season 1, let us pray they never make a boss like Mythic Broodtwister ever again. I legit think this is one of the worst Mythic raid bosses ever made. Required recoras, kick rotations on multiple adds, knockbacks being required because CC fall off, and his spells that are totally random. I legit think this fight was the reason why Mythic rating fell off so hard this season. On a more positive note, I kind of hope they make more fights like Silken Court. My god, is this fight satisfying to resolve mechanics correctly." Honestly, it's strange that they kind of picked two, in my opinion, pug busters, as I'd like to call them, as being their favorite, least favorite. In my opinion, Mythic Broodtwister ends up being the easier of the two, but it happens sooner. So I mean, that's the reason why a lot of people are affected by it more. So I understand their perspective of it is a tough one. I honestly didn't have a lot of trouble with Broodtwister early on. It's kind of as you get further into it, doing like mythic difficulty, or I'm sorry, heroic difficulty and beyond. I never did mythic myself. That you do start to experience some of these struggles. As a tank, for the most part, it's really just, are the proper adds gonna get blown up? There's a typical rotation. They've made maps to show like how it should be done. But when you're running pugs and or even if you're running guilds, there's mostly an issue with popping one of those somewhere along the lines. It usually either happens in the first one or in the, I would say, the last one of the second one. So usually like the first one of the first quadrant or the last one of the second quadrant, at least in my experience. So I get it. And I do get that. For the most part, though, to me, Broodtwister is quite easy. It's just that it requires coordination, like specific coordination on those parts. The same reason why Nexus Princess kind of throws a lot of pugs. And I would say that's kind of a for better or for worse that they put it that way. I like the way it's how it's arranged, where it's basically you're going to have one of 3 types of battles here that's going to make or break your raid. Which one are you going to struggle with today? And usually for me, it was Silken Court. Silken Court being very understandable in that where you fail is usually due to 1 or 2 assignments. It's either the webs or the dispels. It breaks them up into phases, but there is quite a bit of mechanics. And then of course, further on into Queen Insurrect, there's plenty of mechanics. But my point with this being that I understand not liking this boss, but I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with Broodtwister. I just think that it's the one that a lot of people face as pugs, and that's why we're complaining about it. I don't have any sort of beef with it. I don't think there's anything wrong with any of the raid bosses per se. I would say if I had like the worst experience of any particular one, it'd probably be Nexus Princess, just because as a tank it gets kind of brutal to reposition, as well as how hectic it can be. But it's not hard. I mean, in reality, Silken Court is the one where my groups would tend to fail, etc., etc. And it was usually by some of the last phases, if anything. It was very rarely small things along the way. It was very much one specific thing that ruined the particular attempt. So I mean, rating to me is in a decent state. But let's look at the comments and see what they're saying. This season's fixation on instant AoE burst damage has been really infuriating. Yeah, I would say like the AoE on everybody, like unavoidable AoE damage has been an overall like frustration of mine. The amount of tank busters has been one of my personal ones. Didn't hate progressing Brood and the design of having multiple small teams. Dealing with their type of ad, it's kind of cool, but yeah. Echo of Neltharion wasn't fun because of that. Brood isn't fun because of that. We re-cleared last night with my guild and stopped in front of Silken. Guess is the only boss that cost us a wipe. The worm, because someone was one version behind on their add-on. Oh no, the weak aura add-on issue. That's a shame. That's too bad. My guild got Brood, but that was the worst fight I've ever progressed and helped raid lead on. Yeah, you could really put all of the markers down on the floor. Someone's gonna miss something. Someone's gonna be like, oh, you're standing on that one, I'm standing on this one too, and they blow up the same one. Or two, they don't see it and they end up picking the wrong one by accident. So it's kind of one of those unfortunate situations that too many people need to know what they're supposed to do. And it changes too often. It's not the same thing. So if I were to say what it should be, I would say make it to where it doesn't matter which one you blow up in a case like that, where you make the ring and what's approaching that ring not matter. Put all the eggs towards the center in about the same spot. So as long as you get all of them, you're good. But by the end of it, by like what, 3 rotations, it's usually 3 bombs, I believe, each quadrant. So in my opinion, that's how it improves, I guess. But I don't necessarily have that issue. So I mean, it's just kind of where I stand, but I totally get it. With eggs, it could just be solved with some color coding coming from the game itself. Eggs have 4 colors, 8 players to get one of them, those, and 4 needs to run to correct eggs. I totally agree with this. I think that color coding could have been an easy fix by Blizzard that doesn't necessarily change the difficulty. It just makes it more accessible. You still have to know which one you're going to pick. You could still put 2 people on the same wrong one, but at least there's no confusion of like, where do we go? Because like once you're in the fight, it's hard to see the whole area and room. So that's an easy fix right there. I don't see why they don't do that. That's honestly solid. It's only 3 updates too, so it's kind of weird. Silken Court by far the worst boss in Mythic. My biggest beef with Broodtwister is that basically multiple encounters smashed together. Just remove something and it would be fine. The egg popping drama doesn't help either. Yeah, I mean, with the amount of movement and conditions and changes and positioning, as well as the ground floor slowly shrinking, as well as the circles that are appearing on the ground that are hitting you, it gets to be a lot. I remember when the progressing Mythic Season of Discovery during Fate Scribe, I thought to myself how lame it was that the fight would literally be impossible without weak auras. You'd never have enough time to look at who got the buff and assign everyone to it. Yeah, I would say that's an unfortunate part about a lot of raiding as well as Mythics, in that there's a lot of mechanics that unfortunately cannot be read without a weak aura effectively. You could get away with doing without weak auras in some raid fights, but there are some mechanics I would say in each fight within Mythic difficulty that it's just like, oh wow, this is excessive, or there's no way I would have been able to register this properly without a weak aura or some sort of add-on without it. So add-on assistance is one of those big unfortunate things, because it's like, does the player base want it ultimately? Well, the player base does it out of necessity, but at some point it's also for want, and then min-maxing as well. Is there a version of WoW that could exist without add-ons in that kind of way? I don't really know. I don't really know if that could be the thing. So closing this part of the video, I think that Broodtwister, ultimately, it's a fine fight. I understand people's pain with it. I'm more of in the opinion of Silken Court is one of those checks that if you don't get it, you will not pass. Whereas Broodtwister, it's very much possible by the lower ranking groups. I just think people get hung up on getting assignments and getting forced assignments on the spot. So that's kind of one of the unfortunate things. Maybe if it wasn't forced assignments, maybe if it was color coded, maybe if the positioning or the eggs, it was just maybe like a number of eggs you had to get instead of very specific eggs each time. Any of those slight changes, I think, would fix it and be fine. Totally fine of a fight. Otherwise, I honestly take no issue. But jumping into a more lighthearted topic, let's talk about this second one. So the second one says, casual late night M+, and they say, hey all. And the next thing says, you have been removed from group. It says, you should have been reported. Trying to communicate with others is highly offensive. True. Had a guy called Sock Gobbler join my run, and he opened with, happy to feed you. That's messed up. Should have gone with Meowdy. I've seen that a lot, especially with druids. Too many letters. You could have optimized it with just writing hi, saving 5 digits. Okay, min-maxer. Like, dear lord. That'll teach you. Perfect. Should have hit him with the Meowdy. Yeah, I've seen it a lot, for sure. Hey, all is toxicity. Yeah, that's true. Hey, when people invite me and insta-kick. Like, why even invite me at all if you weren't sure? Now all my queues are canceled. Yeah, I think what people do is they get somebody in a queue or they invite them, and maybe somebody else pops up is the reality of this, but it's just funny how how it turns out. You were probably just invited by mistake. Yeah, that's probably the truth. Are you trying to ruin this run by being friendly? That's true. Group pass the vibe check if they reply. General Kenobi. If you say hello there, that's perfect. Yeah, I honestly, yeah. I mean, a lot of people are reacting to this way. I've seen a lot of these, especially this expansion. I don't think there's anything fixed to this. I just think it's funny. I will say, something I am learning with the Mythic Plus experience is certain realms have bad reputations. And if this wasn't an accident, I would look at the realm first. Like, you invite somebody and it's like, and oh man, what's one I've seen or had a lot of trouble with? I think like Illidan. And no offense to anybody who plays Illidan, but just a bad rep. Unfortunately, there's some realms that just have very poor reputations. I needed like a guideline, but there's just some realms that just, you're always gonna have a bad time if you invite them from certain realms. It's just, it's strange. It's a strange world we live in, but hey, it is what it is. So first part, we talked a little about rating, and then of course a little bit about Mythic Plus. The third one I wanted to talk about was some changes that were coming. So with the changes, I want to preface this with, I understand that updates are going to happen. Items are going to get replaced with other items, and things are going to change. But I kind of stand very much on one side of this argument, where when new mounts appear in the game, they should be unique. They should not detract from other mounts. And if they're purchasable, they should not just look like upgrades. Now, in my opinion, so let's look at the text here of this article. It says, a highly coveted rare mount in the top picture that goes around for 3 million gold. Bottom pictured a free mount coming in the next patch. I think the top mount looks way better. From the fire in the back, the details, it looks a lot cleaner. This one looks like with the red, it's more of like a rocket engine red, whereas this is like more of a pink-ish. So I think overall, this one looks better. So, but my issue still with something like this is that it's almost exactly the same in design. There's nothing unique about this particular rocket. They're not trying anything new here. It has the same face on the bottom right. It's got the same sort of patchwork wood, just a few more pieces maybe. The same silver tip, the same back end with the claw shape, and the same seat type. There's not really anything happening that's here that's different, other than maybe coloring and detail. Like I said, I like this one better. So I mean, like, even still with this being a free mount, I could still see people wanting this one for the better quality and color. Top one is redder and thus faster, and your point is invalid. True. I mean, because they do technically look different, people can still weird flex at the 3 million gold mount. Yeah, I mean, that's what it's ultimately about. It really is about having the flex mount. I don't think anyone's going to summon this one and it'd be a problem. Like, I don't think this mount should exist, but even though it does, I don't think it totally takes away from this mount entirely. I think the new one looks better. Really? Really? Okay. I mean, that maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me know in the comments. Like, let me know. Does the new one look better? Honestly, in my opinion, the HD remakes don't replace the old mounts. If they ever did an updated Spectral Tiger, it wouldn't necessarily negate the rareness of the original. In reality, it would probably do the opposite and make the original more coveted. This is someone who's like, I'm never going to get a Spectral Tiger. Please give us. I mean, HD remakes are something I think I would rather have instead of trying to have a new mount for free designed differently and still have the old one. Allow it to where whenever you select the mount that you can select like the original or the HD remake instead of just making a separate mount entirely and two separate things. Why needlessly add if it's not important? I don't know. Like have different like skin options in there, in my opinion. Pictured two different mounts. Good. HD remakes of all the trading card mounts should be made freely available to all. No one cares about your 15-year-old FOMO, cringe rocket, or your duplicated Spectrum Tiger. I can hear this argument too. Yeah, it is super cringe to be like, don't mess with the mount that I spent a lot of digital money on. I can understand the perspective. It's not like it's a huge deal. Like I said, I don't think it should exist. I think you should just keep the old and do something new. Stop trying to do something that has already been done. If it's an HD remake, just make it an option that you can tick or change instead of a totally different mount that you get. Because what happens is you're getting a free mount. So like why complain, right? But at the same time, even though it's a free mount, it just seems like they're just doing a copy paste, or it's kind of lazy, you know, that's the idea. It seems kind of lazy, even though it has like the upgraded graphics and style, even though I think the first one looks better. So a lot of even those in there, but the idea is, to me, it still kind of holds. Like I'd rather have anything else as if it's new versus something that's already been made overall. So that's my thoughts on it. I know I jumped into a couple different topics. I'm sorry, Magnum and Zephyron, that I didn't follow a script. It's kind of the nature of my videos, but we talk about a few things here, and I like to make this kind of like this open discussion for us to talk about in a way that's, it's kind of the way my brain thinks, but I also know that not every topic has 10, 15 minutes worth talking about. Sometimes there is something that comes up in my mind and we talk about it in the video. So I hope things get better. I hope that my video is not too slow. I don't know what to say exactly. I can talk faster, but my words would be already worse than what they are. So not a lot I can do. But if you did like the video, give it a like, subscribe to the page while you're at it. We are on the road to 1,500 subscribers, as well as 1,000 subscribers on our Twitch page. So join us Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We do stream on twitch.tv/ShawnSetGO. Love to see you there. Or in our community Discord, the Turtle Club. Love to have you there. So please join us there. But until next time, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.